Good morning. Welcome to Morning Moments. Thank you for joining me today, whatever platform that you're watching this on. Uh, Today, I have a special guest that she is a singer, songwriter, author, speaker, and I'm not sure what all that she does. Tara Johnson, welcome to Morning Moments.
Thank you so much, Andy, for having me. It's a joy. I'm so excited because my kids are in the other room, walked away.
I could. Yeah. I've got a finally got a quiet room to myself. Huh?
That's right.
You are in Arkansas, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I sure am.
Good, good. Well, here I'm in Virginia Beach, and so welcome to Morning Moments. I get guests from all over, and so it's nice to have representatives from all over. Tell me a little bit about yourself as I ask the question: what do you do, and why do you do it?
What I do, I have many hats, and I just call myself a creative. My goal is to create with God, and whatever aspect or route that takes. I love songwriting and music. That's always made up a huge part of my life, and singing. And the past few years, the Lord has led me into this new thing of writing, and I never saw it coming. Ever since I was little, I just imagined myself on stage singing and speaking to people, but the whole writing thing was totally new. And I primarily write fiction, but have had dabbled a little bit in nonfiction, and I love it all. To me, the my husband says I'm good at many things, none of them make any money, but that's okay. I have fun and I love it because it's such a neat way to connect to God, learn more about Him, but also share Him with other people.
Where does your writing come from? Does it just flood through, or do you like get it from when your travels or your books that you read, or where does your ideas come
Any and all of those. My latest story, I had an idea. I was going to sing at a dear friend's funeral, and we were passing a little mausoleum, and I was noticing the tufts of grass sprouting up, and it just began like a narration in my head, that this girl was at a gravesite, and she was noticing the grass, and in my I automatically began formulating a story about the town gossip who dies, and she's thinking, wow, I wonder if anyone's going to show up to this funeral. And before I know it, I had this entire opening for a story, and I was scribbling things down right before I had to get out to go sing. So I read a lot. I love, especially the Civil War. I love biographies and history. So people from the past really inspire me as well.
So do you do uh, time sensitive, Civil War or history as well?
Anything older than me, I think, is awesome. That's what I consider fun. Civil War is my favorite, but anything from the past. I'm reading a book right now from a lady like 1500, and my son's like, "Why?" But I was like, her story was amazing. So, yeah, anything older than me, I think is pretty cool.
And it's fun to I'm sure it's fun to research too, some of that history
Oh yeah.
and what was things that were common there that's not common now, and adds to the story as well, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The Civil War was fascinating because both sides thought that they had God on their side. And so
Yeah.
I'll read these old newspapers, and they both said, well, we can't lose because God is on our side. And we can't lose either because God's on our side. So seeing the dynamics and the way people viewed God, even in snippets of time, to me is psychologically very fascinating.
Well, is that the way it is today? Everybody thinks
Yep.
God is on their side. That's
That's right. That's right. People are good about playing the God card.
Yeah. I tell folks it's amazing. When we get to heaven, you're going to realize that that some of the people that you knew were not all right,
Right.
that they were wrong,
That's right.
but you're also going to discover that you weren't all right either.
That's correct. It's going to be I think that's why it's going to take eternity to teach us, because we've got so many things mixed up, and God's just like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to set this aside for eternity. We'll deal with it then.
Yeah. And God only has one kind of person to work through, and that's human.
That's
And
right.
we're gonna see things our own way.
That's right.
When we look at why we do things, it gets back down to our purpose and our calling.
It does.
And I think sometimes we get so distracted by uh, the distractions around us that we forget the call of God and the great commission that God has given each one of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For me, I know I was raised as a preacher's kid, And as time went on, I got it in my mind that the church was happy, or God was happy when the church was happy. And so I thought the church was happy when I put on a good little Christian girl persona and kept everybody around me happy. And after years of that people pleasing mentality, I just hit a wall. There was one night I was on every committee in church. I was the one, if the windows needed to be washed at 2 a.m., I was the one down there doing it. And you can only do that for so long before your body just collapses in like a dying star, you know. So I remember one night I just had this emotional breakdown and I was crying on my bathroom floor. And I remember telling God, this is not the victorious life that you promised. And it took me a while. I have a wonderful Christian doctor. I went to him and poured out, you know, and sobbed and snotted on his shoulder. And he said, "Well, Tara, why are you doing all of this good stuff?" I said, "Well, it's good. It's what we're supposed to do." He said, "No, no, no. Why are you doing it?" And he very slowly began to unpeel this onion in my heart, that I was doing it to feel accepted. I was craving unconditional love. And I thought unconditional love was the same as pleasing people, and they're not. They're polar opposites, you know. Unconditional love says that you are a mess, but I'm crazy about you anyway. And this approval mentality says, well, if you meet my standards, here's my stamp on you. And they could not be more opposite. But as I began to grow and learn and really explore how I had gotten so far away from what God had intended me to be, he just opened up these really neat opportunities. I was signed with a Christian record label and for 10 years and sang and did that. And then I began to lose my voice. And I thought, this isn't right, God. You know, you said you were going to use my voice to teach other people about you. I've got this message of about people pleasing and approval and what it really means to be unconditionally loved. And I began writing my thoughts and blogging about them. And pretty soon I had more followers following my blog than I ever did going around the country and singing. And he said, no, 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 I'm going to do a new thing. So I went to the American Christian Fiction Writers Conference. My husband encouraged me to go. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not a writer. And he said, just go and see. Then you'll know, you know, if it's for you or not. My very first class I sat in, the teacher there was talking about each author's unique voice and how each person strings words and phrases together with their own unique stamp. And it was then that God said, you know what, Tara, you can have a voice and still not have a voice. I know what I'm doing here in this season. And he really taught me a lot about surrender and what it is to be unconditionally loved by the God of the universe. It doesn't always look the way I think it's going to look because I'm so busy looking to other people to fulfill that need sometimes. And that's not the way that God works at all. But it's been a really, really neat journey. And so like the why for me, why do I write? Why do I sing? Why do I do all these things? The why for me is that I want to know God. I don't want to put anybody else in his place. I don't want to put anybody else on a pedestal where he should be, because he was the one that died to save me, right? So it's all about creating with him. But then the second part of that is I get to tell other people about that in a unique way. You know, there's this old fable about story and truth. And Truth walks through a village completely naked and nobody wants to let her inside. Story comes down the way dressed in these beautiful dresses and gowns and silks, and people invite her in. And Truth is sitting on the side of the road crying, why won't anyone accept me? And Story says, well, you just need to wear some of me and then people will welcome you in. So she shares her cloak and people welcome her in to their houses. That's really what writing is, especially inspirational writing. You're giving people truth about God, the God of the universe, but you're wrapping it in a story so that it's so much easier for them to understand and to swallow, you know? So to me, that's one of the neatest things about what I do and why I do it. It's knowing God and sharing that knowledge with other people.
You know, you said something that a lot of people are going to say, well, that listens to my show and my interviews a lot. They go, well, here he is again. He's going to talk about surrender. I didn't bring it up this time. I want to just tell you, when surrender is your reasonable service, you can expect great things from God.
Yeah.
And so when we surrender our talents to him, that we're not defined by our singing voice. We're defined by who God says I am. And I love what you said about pleasing others, because as a preacher's kid myself, that was, that was the battle is, you gotta, put it on for everybody in the church. So, because preacher's kids got to behave themselves, and I
Right.
hardly ever was behaving myself. Uh, but when I realized that nothing I can do or say will have God love me any more or any less. Matter of fact, right now, God's not going to love you any more or any less than he does right this second. Nothing you could do to get his approval because God is love. And so some of you are going, I'm unlovable. Oh no, don't say that. God loves you. He cares for you. He's got you in the palm of his hands. He's got a purpose and a place and a plan for you. And it's up to you to find it. God knows your heart. It's up to us to hear his voice. It's up to you to realize, God, what do you have for me? Here, my guest, as we in the last few minutes of the show, my guest has said she had to find that. And God is still molding and making her into what he has her as a writer and as a speaker. Some of you are struggling right now, going, I need to know. I need to know what God has for me. He doesn't want to hide his purpose from you. He will reveal it to you if you earnestly seek it. Uh, Mary, I'm going to, excuse me, Tara, I'm going to go ahead and put down below some of the books you've written, songs, and all that. I'm going to have that in your in the comment section so people can look at that. But more important than of the things you're doing, accomplishments and people buying your books, and I want them to buy your books and listen to your songs. I want you to pray for Tara Johnson. I want you to pray that God would continue to bless her and her family. You know, she earnestly needs your prayers and you need to practice. You need that prayer practice. So pray that God would richly bless her and continue to use her. Tara, thank you so much for being a guest on Morning Moments.
Thank you so much. You're a delight. I enjoyed it so much. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Pass this message on to somebody that needs to hear it. And if you would please keep coming back for some more Morning Moments.